The roar of the crowd thundered through the packed arena, where every seat was filled with fans eager for an unforgettable night of MMA action. Bright lights cut across the stage, illuminating the steel cage at the center. Cameras flashed, banners waved, and the air crackled with energy. It was exactly the kind of place where reputations were made and destroyed. In the first few rows of VIP seating, however, there was one figure who seemed oddly detached from the chaos around him. John Wick. Dressed in a dark suit with no tie, he sat still, posture at ease, his eyes fixed on the octagon. He wasn't there for show. No entourage surrounded him, and he didn't wave or smile at the occasional fan who recognized him. Yet his presence was impossible to ignore. Some watchers whispered, "Is that John Wick, the one you don't mess with?" Others craned their necks to confirm, hearts pounding at the sight of the legendary figure known for lethal skill and quiet poise. Meanwhile, inside the cage, a brash young fighter named Rafa the Predator Ortiz was putting on a display of raw aggression. Touted as undefeated, he was known for his flashy finishes, ruthless style, and unrelenting trash talk. Opponents crumbled before him, and tonight was no exception. A vicious combination, culminating in a brutal hook, had sent his foe crashing to the mat. The referee rushed in, waving the fight over, while medics scrambled to check on the fallen fighter. The crowd erupted, half in excitement, half in disquiet, witnessing how easily Ortiz battered the other man. Chest heaving, sweat trickling down his brow, Ortiz basked in the spotlight. A smirk slid onto his face as he strolled the cage perimeter. He threw his arms up, reveling in the cheers and jeers alike. Then his gaze landed on John Wick. Instantly, Ortiz's grin widened. He motioned for a microphone, ignoring the battered fighter behind him. "Hey, Wick!" he shouted, voice echoing across the stadium. "I see you down there, all calm like you're too good for this." A hush rippled through the onlookers. Did he just call out John Wick? Some fans roared in anticipation. Others exchanged uneasy glances, well aware of Wick's rumored deadliness. Ortiz jabbed a finger at him, face twisted into a mock challenge. "You think you're tough in those stories with your fancy moves. Why don't you step into a real fight and show us if it's real?" A wave of gasps and murmurs swept the seats. This was unprecedented. A young MMA champion, publicly challenging John Wick, the man whose quiet legend overshadowed even the boldest. And there sat Wick in the front row, expression unchanged. No anger, no laughter, just an unwavering, steady gaze fixed on Ortiz. Cameras zoomed in, capturing Wick's face on the big screen overhead. The audience fell into a hush, adrenaline surging. What would Wick do? Ortiz, feeding off the tension, laughed. "Maybe you're scared, or maybe you're just hype." He smacked the cage with his palm, eyes alight with arrogance. "I'll show you real skill, old man." A chant started, as if the crowd wasn't sure whether to cheer for Ortiz's bravado or hold their breath for Wick's response. "Wick! Wick! Wick!" some shouted. Others glared at Ortiz. In the ring, the mic trembled in Ortiz's grasp, but his voice was loud and cocky as ever. "Step up or walk away, it's your call!" Long moments stretched. The cameras stayed glued to John Wick, who hadn't moved a muscle. Then, slowly, Wick stood. The hush was so profound that it seemed the entire arena had forgotten to breathe. He adjusted his suit jacket with a single, smooth motion, eyes never leaving the fighters. No words. Just an imposing stillness that made Ortiz's bravado look like a child's tantrum. One step forward. That was all it took for the stadium to explode in a frenzy of cheers and swirling camera lights. Even Ortiz's cocky grin faltered, if only for a second. Because everyone could feel it. The real fight had just begun. A wave of electricity coursed through the arena as John Wick climbed into the cage. Security hesitated, but seeing no direct official protest, let him pass. Ortiz bounced on his feet, stretching his arms like he was about to demolish just another challenger. But there was a tension in his gaze. Under the bright lights and pounding chants, he registered the calm resolve in Wick's eyes. Commentators, half out of their minds with excitement, yelled into their headsets. "This is insane! A cocky MMA champion calling out John Wick of all people." The crowd thundered with calls of "Wick! Wick! Wick!" The promoter at ringside looked overwhelmed, but recognizing a once-in-a-lifetime spectacle, shrugged and signaled for them to proceed. The ring announcer stepped back, mouth open, at a loss for words. This was no official match, but the audience was about to witness a showdown that could surpass any sanctioning body's hype. Ortiz, brimming with arrogance, cracked his knuckles, pacing like a predator. He jabbed the air in Wick's direction. "Let's see if you can handle this. No stunt doubles here." Then, with a snap of aggression, he lunged. Wick moved as though anticipating every strike. Ortiz unleashed a brutal barrage of jabs and hooks, but Wick's stance was deceptively smooth. He slipped each blow by inches, deflecting with minimal effort. The crowd went wild, half in shock, half in awe. Ortiz snarled, intensifying his onslaught, convinced he could break Wick's guard. He threw a savage knee, aiming to stun Wick in one shot. Wick deflected with a swift forearm block, stepping aside so fluidly it seemed almost rehearsed. The fans roared in disbelief. This was no choreographed movie fight. The power in Ortiz's swings was tangible, the threat real. Yet Wick countered with a discipline that left Ortiz whiffing air. A hush of wonder rippled through the audience. Who was this man? Finally, Wick took the initiative. He angled left, forcing Ortiz to commit to a wide swing. Then Wick hammered a single crisp elbow into Ortiz's ribs, making him reel with a choked gasp. The crowd erupted, phones flashing. Ortiz stumbled, genuine surprise flickering across his face. The muscle-bound champion had rarely, if ever, taken a blow with that level of precision. But Ortiz wasn't finished. Pride bristling, he roared and flung a high kick at Wick's temple. Wick ducked, seized Ortiz's leg midair, and used the momentum to twist him off balance. Ortiz collapsed onto the mat, bouncing up quickly. Rage etched across his features, laughter and cheers echoed from the stands. The chant, "Wick! Wick!" grew louder, unstoppable. Ortiz advanced again, adrenaline fueling him, firing combos with lethal speed. Finally, one punch landed glancingly on Wick's shoulder, forcing him back a step. The champion smirked, pressing forward. He aimed a ferocious uppercut, intending to end it. Wick evaded by a hair's breadth, then punished the champion with a lightning-fast sequence. Left body shot, right cross, and a finishing knee. Each strike landed with mechanical precision, culminating in a full blow to the jaw. A collective gasp shook the crowd as Ortiz wobbled, eyes glassy. A stunned hush swallowed the arena. Ortiz, in slow motion, crumpled to his knees. The microphone he'd boasted into earlier lay forgotten, like a relic of his arrogance. The undefeated champion, now battered, stared blankly at the man who had just dismantled him. Wick took a measured step back, neither sneering nor gloating. With shoulders relaxed and breath steady, he held a posture that spoke volumes. He could continue, but he chose not to. One beat passed, then the crowd lost its mind in a cacophony of cheers and roars. The scoreboard operator, the ring announcer, even the camera crews seemed dumbfounded. This wasn't an official bout, so no official winner was declared. But the audience knew. They'd witnessed something unstoppable. Ortiz, gasping, tried to stand but collapsed into the medic's arms. And the chants, "John Wick, John Wick," soared higher than any champion's name had that night. Wick turned, scanning the arena. Cameras fixated on him, capturing his every breath. Still no dramatic pose, no words. Just a faintly narrowed gaze as though verifying that the threat was truly over. One of the ringside officials sputtered, "Mr. Wick, do you want to say something?" But Wick simply shook his head. There was nothing left to prove. With that silent aura, he moved to exit the cage. Security parted, letting him pass. Fans in the front rows pressed forward, some with outstretched arms, some simply gawking. In the hush that followed his steps, one might swear you could feel the pulse of every heartbeat in that stadium. Wick paused briefly at the open cage door, glancing over his shoulder. Ortiz was half upright, face a mix of pain and disbelief. Their eyes met. For a moment, the champion looked like a humbled rookie. Wick offered him the slightest nod, an acknowledgement that wasn't pity, but respect for a man who had dared to step up. And then he was gone, striding into the bright corridor beyond the cage. The entire audience rose to its feet in a standing ovation that roiled into the highest decibels of the night. The ring announcer stuttered through some parting remarks, uncertain how to label what had just happened. A cameo? An unscheduled fight? A lesson in humility? Back in the cage, Ortiz's medics guided him to a stool. He refused a stretcher, pride still glimmering even in defeat. The cameras zoomed in on his face, bruised, drenched in sweat, eyes blazing with embarrassment. Over the stadium speakers, the commentators wrestled with words. Ortiz has never been so thoroughly outmaneuvered by someone who didn't even break a sweat. Another commentator softly added, "John Wick might be the scariest man I've ever seen, and he didn't say a single word." Outside, a hush seemed to hang over the building. People scrolled on their phones, rewatching clips of that final takedown. Social media was already exploding. Number John Wick, number MMA shock, number legend. The night's official matches suddenly felt overshadowed, swallowed by the unstoppable presence of a man who operated outside the usual script. For the Cocky MMA Fighter, the regret lay heavier than any bruise. He'd spat challenges at the wrong opponent, hoping to humiliate a quiet legend. Instead, he discovered that behind that unassuming gaze was a lethal calm that demanded no bragging rights. Through a short, merciless display, John Wick taught a lesson that no rant or microphone bravado could overshadow. When the cameras turned off and the crowd trickled out, one truth remained. Sometimes the loudest talkers crumble fastest when confronted with unshakable skill. And in that moment, everyone in that arena understood. Messing with John Wick was a surefire path to regret, delivered in a deafening hush that proved unstoppable.